This week's Parsha's Vayikra, deals with the inyan of Karbanos, as the book itself of Vayikra is called Toras Kohanim, the laws of the Kohanim, and it deals with many of the laws of the Kohanim and the sacrifices. And as we all know, we don't have a Beis HaMikdash today, and we don't bring Karbanos. It's a whole separate share on why not. Why don't we bring Karbanos Bisman Hazeh? Because really, the Rambam writes that Kedushas HaMakam Eino Batel, the Kedushas HaMakam Hashchina Eino Batel, the Kedusha remains forever. So in terms in theoretical, one can bring a carbon, and there was discussion maybe at one point they brought the carbon Pesach. That's a future share on why don't we bring carbonos today. Why we don't, but we don't. And the Gemara Chazal tell us Tefillah keneged carbonos. Tefillah takes the place of carbonos, and as Chazal tell us, one who does amiris carbonos, one who says karbanos in the morning, it's ki'il makrev, it's like you're bringing a karban. So it gives us an opportunity then to discuss some inyanei tefillah, which is our substitute for karbanos today. There's a famous machlokes, the Rambam and the Ramban, on the nature of tefillah, on the nature of the mitzvah of prayer. The Rambam writes, Maimonides writes, mitzvahs aseh b'chol yom. There's a mitzvah every day to daven. So, and the way the Achronim, the Stipe, and others learn, the mitzvah is once a day, every day. And midrabanan, we all know, as we'll get into, we daven 3 times a day. And the Ramban writes, Nachmanides, tefillah, prayer is fundamentally the Rabbanan. However, tefillah, b'ei sarah, tefillah in a time of need, that takes on a biblical status. So it seems to be a fundamental machlokes. The Rambam, Maimonides versus Nachmanides, what is the nature of tefillah? Is tefillah biblical or rabbinical? So Rav Soloveitchik, in a famous piece, points out really it's only a local machlokes. It's only a local dispute. It's not a major issue here. Everybody agrees, both the Rambam and the Ramban agree, that the only time prayer is biblical, the essence of prayer is bakasha, asking for things, is only b'ei sarah, only when you're in a time of need. The dispute between the Rambam and the Ramban is what is the definition of time of need, at least for tefillah. The Ramban writes, if there's a war, an earthquake, a tsunami, some external factor where you're in some immediate danger, externally, that's considered an Eisara, but everyday life is not, and therefore it's only biblical during a time of war, of danger. And the Rambam holds that human life is full of frailty. We never know from one day to the next, from one moment to the next, what's going to happen, something's going to happen to us, etc. So really every day, life is full of sorrows for many different people. So that's considered an Eisara. So that's the way the Rav explains that. Everybody agrees that the only time tefillah is minat Torah is b'ei sarah. The machlokes, the Rambam and the Ramban, is what's the definition of Eisara. And the Gemara in Brachos and Avchavav Amud Beis goes into who instituted tefillah. So there's a famous dispute in the Gemara whether tefillah keneged karbanos, the tefillah corresponds to sacrifices, like the karban, the Tamid Shel Shachar is keneged shacharis, the Tamid Shel Ben Harbayim is keneged mincha, and Ma'ariv is the leftover fats and limbs. That's what Ma'ariv is. So the question is, that's one opinion in the Gemara, and the other opinion is tefillah keneged avos. That we know we have Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Vayashkem Avram Avokir. Avram got up in the morning and prayed. That's tefillah shacharis. Yitzchak mincha, and Yaakov evening service. Alright, the Gemara asks, what about Musaf? Musaf, obviously, you have to say it's from Karbana. So that's what the Gemara concludes. Really, both. Really, it's both Avos and Karbanos. It's a mixture of both. So what's the difference in terms of Machshava? What do you mean Tefillah keneged Karbanos, Tefillah keneged the Avos? So there's a beautiful Meshach Chachba at the end of Parashas Vayikra, or in the middle of Parashas Vayikra, on the words Becharbi Ubekashti, on the words with the sword, with the bow, and Ubekashti, and the bow and arrow. And it's the Targum Onkelos, which usually translate literally, explains the words differently here. He says Becharbi Ubekashti, Bisalusi Ubausi. Different types of prayer. There's one type of prayer and a deeper type of prayer. So what forced the Targum to go out of the Pshuto? Usually he gives the Pshuto Shel Mikra. So it can't mean Pshuto, because when you're fighting a war, first you use a bow and arrow, and then you go to hand-to-hand combat. The fact that the Pasuk mentions sword first means it's not talking about it in the literal sense, and hence the Targum explains it to mean Tefillah. So the Meshach Chachma explains there are two types of Tefillah. There's a Tefillah of Charbi and a Tefillah of Kashti. So that what's Charbi? Charbi is a sword, a very sharp sword. You don't have to do much to kill someone when you have a sword, a nice sharp sword, and you just nick the person, you just have to nick his neck, and that's it. You could die from that. You don't have to do much to nix everything. However, when it comes to a bow and arrow, it's the deeper you go, the more you pull back, and they say the closer to your heart you go, the further it goes. There are two types of tefillah. There's one is, perhaps one could say, tefillah's avos tiknun. That's the formal tefillah, the one that Anshe Knesset Hagadola instituted. That tefillah keneged karbanos. That basically it's the same thing every day. They brought the same karban morning and afternoon. Tefillah is the same text of tefillah every day. That's the, from the Anshe Knesset, that's the Charbi. That has inherent value. Chazal were able to intuit what words are the appropriate words that God wants here, that our prayers will be accepted. So, as long as that's what the discussion, should I daven in Hebrew versus English? So that's one of the pros of Hebrew, is even if you don't understand what you're saying, if you understand what you're saying, it's even more powerful. But this saying the mere words, reading the words from Anshe Knesset Hagadola, that's powerful in its own right. That's like a Charbi. Ubakashi, you want to daven in English or some other language which makes sense, you'll have more kavanah because you know what you're saying. So that you make sure you have to have more kavanah. And that's what they point out as well. That's perhaps Tefillah's Avos. The Avos had their own needs. Avram was praying. Vayashkem Avram Babokir, he had his own issues. Yitzchak Sulach Basada in Sicha or Tefillah. Yaakov at night Vayifka Bamakom. So the Avos represent the different types of needs, the different types of bakashas, the much more informal tefillah. And the truth is that we combine both, because we know we read from the nusach of the Anshe Knesset Hagadola. However, in different parts of the tefillah, when you get to chachma, the wisdom, to refuah, to shema koenu, or before you take 3 steps back, about shalom, there are different places where you can add your own special bakashas. Those are two types of tefillah. There's tefillah of the Anshe Knesset Hagadola, that's the more formal tefillah. That's perhaps the tefillah keneged karbanos. That is the charbi, the sword that Meshach Chachma is talking about. And it's a velusi, you need more kavanah, the more deeper type of tefillah, you're davening in the language you understand, and also you're davening for specific needs. When you're davening for something you need, that usually have more kavanah. In fact, that's the famous Gemara in Makis, where it says the Kohen Gadol's mother made sure she baked cookies for the people in the Ari Miklat to make sure they wouldn't pray that the son or husband, whoever it might be, they shouldn't pray that they should die. All of a sudden we're worried about some Russia or whoever this person might be praying for someone else. Like, why is that a concern? And in fact, we have a Gemara in Tainis. The Gemara talks about that when we start asking for rain, so we give, it's a whole discussion in Tainis, but the Gemara says we wait 2 weeks to give the people time to go home. We're concerned that we don't want the rain coming down on them. The question is, like, what do you mean we're concerned? Like, it's time for rainy season, but we're not going to pray for rain because of some people who might get wet? No, so really it isn't rainy season yet. It's a 2-week period where perhaps it's not rainy season, but the point being is, because there's a big difference. The ones who are praying that it not rain, that's a much more powerful tzvi, because they actually mean it. They're going to get soaked and full of mud. Other people are hypothetically praying for rain in Israel. Hopefully we have some kavanah, but not the kavanah of the person. That's a symbol here. The kavanah that the person, even the kavanah that the person has to get out of the Ari Miklat is going to be great, and hence even the Kohen Gadol has to worry about it. And that's where we see the kolach hatfilah, not only for the Gedolei Yisrael, but for every individual. We all have a personal connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We don't need any intermediary. 3 times a day we have a more formal prayer, but halavai shizbala adam kol yom kulo, but halavai, that person prays all the time. It's always appropriate to daven to God, to request rachamim all the time. And that's the yisod of tefillah. Now we don't have karbanos today, but tefillah connected karbanos, and we should try to work on improving our tefillah.